So imagine trying to build a global utopia.
Right, which is no small task.
Yeah, exactly. But imagine doing it not by, like, running for president or taking over the United Nations, and not by drafting these sweeping international treaties either.
Oh, wow. So taking a completely different route.
Totally. Instead, imagine trying to change the world by planting a backyard garden, moving in with your neighbors, and just doing it one local commune at a time.
That is, that's a wild pivot from how we usually think about global change.
I mean, it really is. And then taking that incredibly local, small-scale lifestyle and attempting to scale it across international borders, it just sounds like an impossible premise, you know?
It really does. I mean, we have all these massive top-down geopolitical forces running the world.
Right.
And then we have these tiny pockets of people saying, you know what, we're going to try something completely different, and we're going to do it together.
Yeah, it's a profound contrast in problem solving.
Definitely. You're looking at a grassroots, deeply localized attempt to solve planetary scale problems. I mean, the ambition is just staggering when you consider their starting point.
And that ambition is the main focus of this deep dive today. So for you listening, what we are looking at is a single, just unprecedented primary document.
Yeah, this document is something else.
It really is. It's a bilingual joint announcement. And it's dated November 11th, 2013. Basically, this text outlines a formal alliance between two distinct eco-villages.
Located in China and one in Japan.
Exactly. And for those of you who, maybe don't spend your weekends reading up on alternative living, an eco-village isn't just a handful of people camping out in the woods.
No, not at all. These are highly structured, self-sufficient communities.
Yeah.
They're designed to have the absolute lowest possible ecological impact.
Yeah.
So that often involves advanced agriculture, shared economies, and some really deep philosophical foundations.
Which is exactly what makes this document so compelling. I mean, it isn't some theoretical manifesto written by academics in a university.
Right. It's an operational agreement. It's between two groups of people who are already living this reality on the ground in two entirely different countries.
Yeah. So the mission of this deep dive, what we're going to do today for you, is to really unpack the mechanics, the underlying philosophy, and the massive global ambitions of this 2013 agreement.
Because we want to understand how these groups actually plan to achieve what they call, right in the text, one world, one family.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because we need to start with the physical reality of what they actually did before we get into their grand utopian ideas.
Yeah, the logistics of it.
Right. Like, how do two totally distinct communities separated by an ocean actually unite?
Well, the document lays out a structural integration that goes, way beyond a friendly sister city agreement.
Oh, sure, where mayors just exchange a plaque and, visit each other once a year.
Exactly. The two players here are the Second Home, which is now known as the new oasis for Lifechanyuan in China, and the Konohana family in Japan. On November 11, 2013, delegates from these two communities sat down, held conversations, and reached an agreement to literally unite as one big family.
And the mechanics of this merger are just highly unusual. I mean, it is deeply reciprocal.
Very much so.
The text states that Lifechanyuan has become the Chinese branch of the Konohana family, but simultaneously, the Konohana family has become the fifth branch of Lifechanyuan.
Which is a brilliant way to structure it.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it in a corporate sense, it is like a mutual exchange of shares. Imagine two companies instantly declaring that they are now the exact same entity.
Just operating in different locations.
Right, without any kind of parent-subsidiary dynamic. But these aren't corporations. These are utopian eco-villages with entirely different cultural backgrounds.
And that reciprocal nature completely eliminates the idea of a takeover or a hierarchy. Neither group is absorbing the other one.
Yeah, they're on totally equal footing.
Exactly. They are stepping into a purely horizontal relationship. In fact, the document explicitly mandates that from here on out, the affairs of this newly formed big family will be discussed by all members of both communities.
Which, that brings up a massive logistical hurdle.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, how does a dual headquarters system actually work in practice when you are dealing with everyday communal living across the East China Sea?
It sounds like a nightmare to organize, honestly.
Right. We aren't talking about holding a quarterly board meeting over a video call. We are talking about the granular details of survival and community.
Like who is weeding the garden this week?
Yes, or how are agricultural resources being allocated? Or what is the daily schedule for the members?
Attempting to govern those daily rhythms across a linguistic and geographic border just seems incredibly complex.
Well, what's fascinating here is that the complexity is entirely the point.
Wait, really?
Yeah, they are embracing the difficulty of cross-border governance as a necessary first step. They are structurally intertwining their daily lives specifically to prove a point. Okay, that makes sense.
If we look at the specific symbolism they use in the text, they frame this localized merger as a symbol of harmonizing East Asian countries. They even refer to the people of these nations as ethnic brothers and sisters.
Wow. That specific phrase, ethnic brothers and sisters, I mean, that carries so much historical weight given the context.
It carries an enormous amount of geopolitical gravity. I mean, historically, the relationship between China and Japan has been fraught with deep, painful conflicts, wars, and immense political tension.
Tension that still echoes today, obviously.
Exactly. So by localized groups from these two specific nations choosing to voluntarily erase the boundary between them, to call themselves one family and intertwine their survival, they are making a profound statement.
Yeah, it is a very calculated, powerful first step.
Because if your ultimate goal is to prove that one world, one family is practically possible, you don't start by merging two communities that already agree on everything.
Right, you don't pick the easy ones.
Exactly. You don't pick groups that speak the same language and share a border without any historical baggage. You start by bridging a historically deep divide.
The implication being that if it can work between a Chinese and Japanese eco-village, well, it can be replicated anywhere on Earth.
Yes, it serves as a living proof of concept.
But having established how they merged structurally, we really need to examine the psychological foundation that makes this possible. Because bridging that historical and geographical gap requires a shared worldview that supersedes their national identities.
A completely new framework for how they see the world.
Right. So what is the day-to-day philosophy that actually binds them together? Because the text lays out a very rigorous ideological foundation for this new alliance.
It does. The document lists three core reverences that act as their foundational pillars. They are revere the greatest creator, revere life, and revere nature.
That feels like an attempt to cover the entire spectrum of existence.
It really is.
It touches on the spiritual, the biological, and the ecological all at once. Like they are creating a framework where nothing is left out of their ethical consideration.
And their stated goal, built upon those three reverences, is to create a mechanism for harmonious coexistence.
Okay.
And notice how they categorize this harmony. It's coexistence between human beings, between humanity and society, and between humanity and nature.
So they aren't just trying to survive as an isolated commune.
No, they want to become a working model for all human beings. They explicitly state they are actively exploring new paths for building an ecological civilization and sustainable living.
Which leads to how they define their actual lifestyle in the text. And this introduces a fascinating contradiction.
No, the lifestyle definition is wild.
Yeah, they identify their lifestyle as highly civilized and absolutely communal. But here's where it gets really interesting, because there is an inherent tension in their philosophy.
Yeah, there is a big one.
They feature this striking motto right in the middle of the announcement. It says, "Before cultivating fields, cultivate the soul." And the text dictates that their top priorities are to purify and beautify each member's soul alongside achieving high levels of self-sufficiency and sustainability.
It is a really demanding dual mandate.
Yeah.
I mean, they're asking for internal perfection and external self-reliance simultaneously.
Yeah, and I hear the idealistic vision there, I do. But practically speaking, sharing a kitchen, a bank account, and a daily schedule with dozens of people sounds like a recipe for constant interpersonal conflict.
Oh, absolutely.
It doesn't sound like a serene spiritual retreat. So if the lifestyle is absolutely communal, doesn't that clash directly with the highly individualized goal of purifying a personal soul?
It seems like it would, yeah.
Because the commune traditionally demands conformity. You sacrifice the individual for the group, but the soul demands personal space, introspection, and individual expression. How does the text bridge the gap between absolute collectivism and deep personal spiritual cultivation?
Well, it is a crucial tension to analyze. And to understand how they resolve it, we have to really unpack that motto you mentioned. Before cultivating fields, cultivate the soul.
Okay.
Because in mainstream modern sustainability movements, the focus is almost entirely on the fields, the external material world.
Right.
The solutions we talk about are usually technological or economic. Things like carbon capture, electric vehicles, solar grids, sustainable supply chains.
Sure, the mainstream approach basically treats the ecological crisis as an engineering problem.
Exactly. The assumption being that if we just fix the mechanics of how we extract and consume resources, the planet will heal, regardless of how humans feel internally.
Right.
But this document posits a fundamentally different theory of change. For Lifechanyuan and the Konohana family, an ecological civilization is not an engineering challenge.
What is it then?
It's fundamentally a psychological and spiritual challenge.
Yeah.
They are arguing that the degradation of the environment, the ruined fields, is merely a physical symptom of a degraded human interior.
Oh, interesting.
You cannot fix the planet using the exact same selfish, fractured mindset that destroyed it in the first place. You have to fix the human soul before you touch the soil.
Wow. Okay. So the absolutely communal lifestyle isn't designed to crush the individual soul into conformity.
No, not at all.
It is meant to be the necessary testing ground for it.
Yes, in their view, true spiritual cultivation does not happen in isolation on a mountaintop somewhere where you never have to share anything or compromise.
Right. Because it's easy?
Exactly. It happens in the friction of absolute communal living. The community is the crucible.
That makes a lot of sense.
If you can live a highly civilized life in an absolutely communal setting, meaning you can share limited resources without greed, prioritize the group's well-being over your own comfort, and navigate complex interpersonal conflicts with grace, well, then your soul is genuinely purified.
Ah, I see.
The material self-sufficiency of the eco-village is simply the natural byproduct of a group of people who have already purified their inner landscapes.
So they do not view collectivism and personal spiritual growth as opposing forces.
Exactly. They view absolute collectivism as the highest possible expression of a cultivated soul.
That entirely reframes the concept of ecological living. I mean, they are tying the health of the soil directly and inextricably to the health of the human spirit.
Yes.
The backyard garden only thrives if the person watering it has dealt with their own internal greed.
Right, exactly.
But as profound as that internal philosophy is, it brings us to the third major section of this document. We have to move from their internal spiritual gardens to their external global ambitions.
Because they don't want to stay small forever.
Right. They explicitly state they do not want to just stay in their own backyards. So how does an absolutely communal group, one that views themselves as a single family regardless of international borders, interact with the rest of the highly capitalized, highly regulated world?
Well, navigating the external world is the ultimate test of any alternative living model. And the document is actually surprisingly explicit about their strategy for dealing with existing global power structures.
What do they say?
It outlines a strict, unyielding adherence to external rules. They state they will comply with the terms and laws of the UN Charter. They pledge to comply with the constitutions and laws of each individual country they operate in, and they formally express respect for the central governments and leaders of those countries.
Wow. It sounds like they're walking an incredibly delicate geopolitical tightrope.
They really are.
It is like they're trying to install a completely new operating system for humanity.
Yeah.
This borderless, communal, soul-first utopia. But they're terrified of voiding the warranty on the existing hardware.
That's a great way to put it.
But why go out of their way to explicitly pledge loyalty to central governments, constitutions, and the UN Charter if their stated endgame is a borderless global family?
It does seem counterintuitive.
Especially since later in that exact same section, they claim that their main focus is the interests of all humanity, not the interests of individual nations.
Right.
Pledging loyalty to a nation-state while claiming your true allegiance is to a borderless humanity seems deeply contradictory.
It does. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the strategic brilliance of this compliance clause becomes really clear.
Okay, I'm listening.
Historically, utopian or alternative living movements have often crashed and burned because they position themselves in direct, vocal opposition to the state.
Sure, they make themselves a target.
Exactly. When a localized group declares that national borders are obsolete, stops paying taxes, and announces that their primary allegiance is to a new global order, well, central governments inevitably view them as a threat.
Right, they get labeled as separatist movements or subversive cults.
And the state apparatus responds the way it always does to a threat. It sends in lawyers, zoning boards, or law enforcement to just shut the experiment down.
The utopia gets crushed before it can ever scale.
Exactly. The authors of this 2013 document clearly understand that historical precedent. I mean, look at their stated endgame.
Right.
They write that they will continue to strive to unite over 1,000 communities in the world into a big international family.
1,000 communities.
Yeah, and 1,000 communities requires massive logistical scale. You cannot scale a radical alternative living model to 1,000 communities globally if you are constantly fighting legal battles.
Or getting zoned out of existence.
Exactly, or being investigated as a political threat by the very nations you reside in.
Ah, so the strict compliance isn't necessarily an endorsement of the existing political system.
No, not at all. It is a survival mechanism. It is a strategic way to buy the space and time they need to grow their network.
It is a strategy of quiet systemic revolution through total compliance.
Yes, they are broadcasting to the authorities.
Hey.
Hey, we will follow all your rules. We will pay our taxes. We will obey local agricultural laws. We respect your leaders, and we recognize the UN Charter.
And by doing so, they neutralize the political friction.
Exactly. They make themselves unobjectionable to the state. But underneath that protective umbrella of perfect legal compliance, they're building a borderless ecology.
Right.
They are systematically shifting the psychological allegiance of their members away from the nation-state and toward all humanity.
It is a fascinating approach to systemic change. It is revolution by being the absolute best, most compliant citizens on paper, while entirely rewiring what citizenship actually means in your daily life.
It's brilliant in its quiet way.
They are essentially telling their members that the nation-state can have their legal compliance, but humanity has their actual loyalty.
And that pivot is the crux of their global ambition. The document literally states, "In the face of all interests, we do not take the interests of our own nation as most important, but rather the interests of all mankind."
Wow.
I mean, that is a radical, arguably subversive statement of global citizenship, but it's masked within a very polite, localized eco-village announcement.
Yeah.
They are attempting to hollow out the concept of nationalism from the inside, replacing it with a localized commitment to the global collective.
It really is a Trojan horse. But instead of soldiers waiting inside to conquer a city, it's just a group of peaceful gardeners trying to quietly unite the planet.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this deep dive right now? I mean, we started with a seemingly impossible premise, and through this single 2013 document, we have traced a journey from a localized reciprocal agreement between a Chinese and Japanese eco-village all the way to a grand blueprint for global harmony.
It's a huge leap.
It is, and this text challenges us to fundamentally rethink the mechanics of change. We spend so much of our time waiting for top-down policies. We expect international treaties between superpowers to solve the climate crisis or end historical conflicts.
Right.
But this document asks a totally different question. It asks, what if the most radical, world-changing thing you can do is learn how to share resources with your neighbors, to cultivate your own soul before demanding others change, and to extend your definition of family across the borders that politicians draw on a map?
It's a powerful thought.
It really makes you wonder if lasting global change actually starts from the top down, or if it has to grow from the bottom up, just one backyard community at a time.
Well, the idealism in this text certainly offers a compelling alternative to top-down politics. However, reading it critically raises an important question that this document does not answer.
Okay, what is that?
Well, if these communities firmly pledge to put the interests of all humanity above their individual nations, what happens when a massive global crisis forces them to choose?
Oh, wow.
Can a localized, self-sufficient commune truly maintain its allegiance to the whole world when resources become scarce? Or does the dream of one world, one family inevitably fracture under the pressure of basic survival?
That is a scenario that would truly test the limits of their backyard utopia. I mean, pushing that philosophy of the purified soul to its absolute breaking point.
It is. And it's a question that every community attempting to build a new world from the ground up eventually has to confront.